All right, good morning. Good Tuesday morning to you. Hope everything's well in your world. Hope you had a great night. Rest, refresh, all of those things. Yesterday was it was a rich day. It was a good day. Went to the doctor. Not that that's a great deal. I just get my checkup done, and man, it's good to know that all the blood work and everything else shows that you're just a healthy man, not in need of any medicines or anything else, and so makes me happy. And not that you get old, we're going to die, right, at some point. But I'm grateful that I have good health, and I'm grateful to God for that. So, and last night, man, we just Tam and I just kind of hunkered out. We created kind of a little den for her, or we actually had it, but it made it more of a more to her liking. So it's now her study, I think, instead of a den. But it's a great time. She's got a little desk in there and everything. So we love being in that little room and in our house and just sitting and chatting. And so I got busy studying last night and doing some kind of research on some scriptural things I'm working on. And so it was a great night. And looking forward to this day and what it has for us. And hope you are as well. And so let's just jump back into the book of Acts. We're in chapter 17, and man, this is all of these chapters. You think, hey, it's just narrative. We're just going to tell the story, but how can you just tell the story without seeing kind of the background behind it, and then to see what's going on when I watch a movie? Tammy and I, we love movies, and we'll watch any kind of movie really for the most part. I mean, we don't watch the weird wacko satanic things, and she's not big into the suspense things, but we like movies and watching them. And the way we determine what a good movie is does it make me think about life after the next day or whatever? It could be a cheesy Hallmark movie, right? But if it makes you think about what's going on in other people's minds and what drives them to do certain things, we feel like that's a good movie. And so we've seen several of some really good movies recently that just force you to kind of think through life from the lens of someone else. And that's what the scriptures do. When I read the scriptures, especially the narratives, it forces me. I'm drawn into wanting to understand the nuances of everything that was going on. And so when we come to chapter 17, especially where we are today, it may take us a minute to get through this. Sure, we could just read it and make a few comments. Okay, that's what happened. Paul went here and he got beat up, and Paul went there and he got beat up, and he went here and he preached this. But I think it's important that we just kind of see and think through, how do we apply this to our own life, and what does it look like? So that's where we're going to go today. Paul is in his second missionary journey. You remember he and Barnabas had created kind of a riff and a division, and so Barnabas jumped on a boat, he and John Mark, and they set sail for Cyprus, and they began to go check on the churches like he and Paul had wanted to. So Paul then went in the opposite direction. So he heads up and cuts across the Tarsus Mountains and begins to head into Berea, the Thessalonica, all of those areas, Philippi, all of those areas there. Makes his way into Greece, right? So he gets through all of that, gets to Greece, and here's where we find him. So he's in Roman culture. He's comfortable with that. He lived in Roman colony, and he had a Greek upbringing as well as Jews and Judaism, and so he's very familiar, and he's a cosmopolitan, I guess, if you will. He's just comfortable in every region, every area. He's got this commonality, and brilliant thinker. And so where we find him, when we saw him last, he was in Berea, right? So he had gone through Thessalonica, and at verse 13 it says, "But when the Jews of Thessalonica found out that the word of God had been proclaimed by Paul in Berea also, they came there as well, agitating and stirring up the crowds." So at this point, Paul, Silas, and Luke are like, I mean, here we go again. And so it says, then immediately the brothers sent Paul out to go as far as the sea. Hey, man, just go. Just get out of here. Go, right? They just kind of want to get him away from the turmoil for a minute. Just get out of here. Head toward the sea. We'll catch up. So So Silas and Timothy remained there in Berea. Now, those who escorted Paul brought him as far as Athens. So now Paul's got this escort of some of the other brothers, some of those who have been converted in that area. They're now taking him over to Athens and receiving command from Silas and Timothy to come to him as soon as possible. They left. So he goes, hey, look, all right, I'm in Athens here. Take this with you. Go when you get back to see Silas and Timothy, make sure they get here as fast as they can. So Paul's by himself. Now, that's not always a good thing, right? I mean, there's certain people, right? You go, man, we shouldn't really leave them by themselves because they might find themselves in trouble, right? Paul's going to get in trouble anywhere he goes, but here's like, man, would that a wise move to leave him alone? So here's what happens, and here's where we get into. And I've titled this "Confronting the Culture that drives us." Like, what is it that drives people? And this is what I want us to see here in this text. So we're going to read it, and then we're just going to make some comments on it in the time that we have today. But he says, now while Paul was waiting for them in Athens, now Athens is it's a world city. Not so much today, but in its day, it really rivaled Rome as far as like an intellectual city, culturally relevant. It was like the place to go for everything, all things culture. So in our world, it could be something like Rome still has that. Paris has that kind of a feeling about it, and so it's kind of that concept. And so it says, now while Paul was waiting for them in Athens, his spirit was being provoked within him as he observed the city was full of idols. So Athens, like I say, being a very philosophical city, Athena was one of the gods there. While she was the goddess of war, she was also the goddess of practical reason, and so mind and thought, and so it became kind of an epicenter for thought. In Athens, Socrates and Plato both were born there, so you kind of get the idea. And we have that around here, right? I mean, up in where I live, in Birmingham, the Huntsville-Madison area is a little more known for kind of an intellectual mindset. That's not to take anything away from Birmingham. Birmingham has been somewhat of an industrial medical area. Up in Huntsville, it's more of the aeronautics and space engineers and different things like that. And so it's a bright area. A lot of really sharp minds end up in that area. Athens was like that 10x, right? So that's kind of what's going on there. Aristotle kind of adopted that city along with Epicurus, Xenos. Xenos was the one who his philosophy was Stoicism, that you just are unmoved by anything, and that's the best way to live life. Don't let it get the ups and downs and highs and lows. Just Stoicism. So anyway, those are some of the things. They all had their businesses there, their philosophy centers there. There's tutelage schools and all of those things. Great art, architecture, all of that was found in Athens. That's why they had all of these statues that they had created to these unknown gods, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So there's just filled with intellect. Greek gods were pictured everywhere in this city, and so when Paul walks in and he sees this, it's an international city. And you see these temples and idols and things like that. My first time into India was probably very much like that. I mean, you roll into India, having come from a monotheistic deal, where you'll see temples, right? I mean, we have a Jewish temple here, and we have a Mormon temple here in our town, and there's even a place that where the agnostics hang out and things like that. And so we see a lot of that. Churches, you get that. But when you get to India, it's like, man, you'll see a little temple on the side of a road, and at some point, that's how most all of them started, and they just get bigger. There's a white rat temple in India. There's so many different things. It's like, what is going on? It's like everybody worshiping everything else. I mean, I watched, they will clean their homes in India, some branches of the Hindu, with the urine from a cow because it's sacred. And so it's just like, wow, this is a strange place. That's probably how Paul felt as he just entered Athens and he sees what's going on. It's just like, man, there's a wealth of weird philosophies of life going on here. So as Paul, made his way traveling along, this is where he finds himself. Now, what is it that stirred him up? Because it says this, his spirit was being provoked within him as he observed that the city was full of idols. So to provoke, it's a compound word, perioxis, right? Para means alongside, oxis a sharp edge. It's like somebody's coming along with a sharp edge and prodding your emotions. You ever been provoked before, right? You see somebody doing something that's offensive. Maybe you see a parent yelling at their child, and you look at that child and you see the frailness of it, and you see the brutality of the adult is just yelling in public at their child, and there's something in you that feels like you're being just stuck, right, and provoked. Or maybe you watch the evening news and you see something going on there, and then you're provoked, right? You're just like something's stirring in you, where you just want to yell at the TV, or you want to go over there and punch the parent in the face. Not really, but you know what I'm saying, those kind of things, right? That's what's going on here. So his feelings deep within him are being prodded. This isn't an instinct. Somebody hit me, I'm gonna hit back. That's a quick, agitation kind of thing. To provoke means it's coming from deep within you. There is some emotion that is stirred, and it's forcing you to action. This is what it says here when it says his spirit was being provoked. Notice he was being stirred up within him, that he can't just be an innocent bystander here and just see what's going on, right? I feel a lot of that right now when I'm watching what's going on in Ukraine, and I'm seeing what's happening with Russia and all that. I feel like I'm watching someone get assaulted on a subway or something, and I'm thinking, well, surely somebody's going to step up and do something, but no one. Everybody's kind of got a hands off, and we're just kind of peering in, going, "Oh man, I hope it doesn't get too bad. Maybe if we distract him with this or that." But nobody's just stepping up to say, no, this is provoking me to action. I'm going to do something about this. It feels like there's no country really doing that today, and it's sad. But that's the kind of feeling that we have here now. The culture of idolatry and philosophy and worldview was so driven by these idols. This is what we have to be able to see. What was it that provoked him? As he observed that the city was full of idols, full of idolatry, full of people worshiping different things. Now, it's not a stretch to think that the synagogues are doing the same thing. They're worshiping a law. Now, Paul was a part of that, but Paul also knows that law is dead, and you can't worship law and legalism, and we're not called to worship Moses in the Ten Commandments. We're called to worship and glorify God Most High, of which Moses was doing. And so you got the Jewish deal, then you've got all these gods, and people are worshiping those, and I don't mean to draw the parallels, but in India, listen, there's so many different gods that they're worshiping there, and they've kind of worked it all out. And so there's over 1 million gods they worship in India. And they don't even mind worshiping Jesus. If you start talking about Jesus to them, hey, great, let's add him to my list. But when you say there is no other name under heaven whereby men can be saved, that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's where they get offended, because you're upsetting their worldview. If Christ is the only one, then everything else they're worshiping has been sheer foolishness, and it's a frustrating thing for them. This is where Paul finds himself. So he sees all of these idols and goes, these people aren't glorifying God. They're chasing after Athena, Dionysus, and all of these different gods, and they're like, what's wrong with these people? And he's like, somebody needs to tell them that there is a God Most High, that there is Jehovah, the creator of the heavens and the earth, and his son, the Messiah, Jesus the Christ. And they need to know that they don't have to live like this. They don't have to appease the gods. They just need to embrace the God who loved them, to send his son to walk this earth, a sinless man, to offer himself up as a sacrifice for the whole world, who conquered death. And all we need to do is bow our knee to him. This is what's driving Paul. And so in all of this is what's going on. And so here, let's just keep going here, and then I'm going to come back. So what's he doing? So what's he going to do now? Well, he's going to reason with them in the synagogues, with the Jews and the God-fearing Gentiles, and in the marketplace every day with those who happen to be present. So what's he doing? Well, he's going to see past the facade, right? And he's going to reason with them. He's allowing his emotion to get involved in this, right? Because there's a culture. Listen, every action and attitude has a worldview behind it. And Paul's looking at these worldviews and going, you guys are so messed up because your worldview, the actions that I see you doing are a result of a worldview that's wrong. And so Paul wants to change the worldview of what's going on. And that's the gospel. That's what we have to do, right? Paul wasn't content just to stay in his bubble and go, let me just hang out with those who kind of feel like I do. We'll just become a better version of that. Paul wasn't content with just living in his bubble. Paul wanted to seep out into the world, see what that worldview was in that person that was leading them toward false idolatry, and then challenge that worldview. Not the actions, but the attitude. We spend way too much time on the action of other people, and weeping over a city to grieve over that. That's what Jesus did, right? He sees Jerusalem. And what does he do? He weeps over it. Paul sees Athens, and he's provoked. He's prodded emotionally to go, this is sad. This can't happen. Somebody needs to tell them. I'm telling you, I think that this should do something to us as well to kind of stir our hearts in the area of the gospel. I don't think we see, and maybe I should speak only for myself, that we should see others in that way. I'll look at what happens on social media, and I hear people just using talking points, and so they're just slamming each other, but nobody's reasoning together, which is the response that it says he does here. He reasoned with them. Listen, what's his big beef? They're not glorifying God. That's what it is. And that's what he expected to happen, that that the world would glorify God as he does it. God is magnified. God is amazing, right? And so whether it's in creation where we slow down long, that's why to me evolution isn't about a right or wrong thing. It's about the fact that you're wanting to give credit to the intricacy of this world to some freak happenstance that happened billions of years ago. That diminishes the glory of God. The glory of God is revealed when you see creation as it is. I've encouraged a lot of my friends to listen to or to watch Welcome to Earth. It's a video on National Geographic. The people who do it, they're not believers, I don't guess. I don't assume so. But I can't help but see God in that. Science, the meaning of life, all of these things, right? Even now, meta world, we're beginning to, they're creating universes where you can escape this one and live in some false reality with the glasses and all, goggles and all of that. That's a worldview that we're going to have to deal with. It's an escapism. It's crazy. So what's his response when he sees all of this? Well, he reasons with them. Dialegomagai is how that's worded, and dia means through, right, from one side to the other. It's kind of like a bridge to get through, tunnel, whatever it takes to get through. Listen, this is a phrase that I think, you know how we say, man, I got to get that through your thick skull. That's what it means to reason with someone. You can't just beat it out of them. You have to help them see that their logic is flawed. That's what this means. Elegimo is Lego. It's where we get the word logos, right? Logic. They flow from that. So it's reasoned logic. That's what this is. So we're not just talking about talking points. We're talking about thoughts and ideas and getting to people's wheelhouse. I hope I'm not just rambling to you, but I'm making sense. You can't just throw the gospel into somebody's life and just go, well, hey, here's Jesus. You need to. We have to begin to understand the mindset of where they're coming to, and then help them see how God is applied there. This is what Paul did. This is what he did in the synagogue. He goes there and he goes, hey, I know you're in the law, right? But the law won't save you. Never was designed to. And from there, he reasons with them and shows them the need for Christ and why the Messiah isn't just going to be a world leader, but he came to suffer. He shows him that through Isaiah and the Psalms, but that he won't be defeated by that. He will die, but he will live again. And so he reasons with them to help them understand that what they thought that you keep the law and you wait for the Messiah, and then everything's going to be great. We're going to be, and he was like, no, you're wrong. It's not the law. It's a relationship with God, and it's not the fact that he's coming to set up the kingdom. It's the fact that that he is going to rid the world of sin. And so he changed their philosophy. So you get to the marketplace, the Areopagus. That's the hill of Ares. That's where they would go and meet. Latin is for Ares is Mars, and so literally was Mars Hill. You've heard that before, right? Mars Hill was was not just a hill; it was a court. And it's where 30 judges would sit and they would make decisions, philosophical decisions, not so much legal decisions, but decisions made through reasoning. And so a convict would be brought in and they would reason together what's the best thing to help them and help society overcome that issue. And so for some, death was the reasoned result. For other, it was rehabilitation was the reasoned result. And so this is what was going on. And so this is where Paul is. And I'm going to leave it there. But you and me have to just what drives us and what drives others in our world. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow. So this isn't really a conclusion. It's just a pause until tomorrow. But I think it's important that we just see that the gospel is meant to change men's hearts and philosophy of life, not just their actions. And so we'll talk more about that tomorrow. Man, Lord bless you guys. Have a great day. And Lord willing, I'm going to see you in the morning.